This is the Picard podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1, The Next Generation.
Please stand by for decontamination cycle.
Adrenaline rush.
From fear or the thought of seeing Beverly?
Both.
Terrific. Your hands are stiff. My knees are killing me. So long as we don't have to move or shoot, we should be fine.
Decontamination cycle complete.
Ready?
As ever.
Welcome back, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers, to our discussion about Star Trek Picard Season 3, the final season of Star Trek Picard. We're talking about Episode 1, The Next Generation, and I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Trekkies. Welcome back. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out this group of basically aliens forming a global universal federation, I am Chris.
Welcome back, guys. Good to be here for the final season of Star Trek Picard.
Absolutely, yeah.
Finishing
it's
out the story.
finally ending. Finally.
Well, I know that's
it's the end of Star Trek forever.
That's a bit
They're killing
harsh,
it.
Chris.
They're killing all of Star Trek forever.
No, they're not. Finishing off the 3-season arc of Star Trek Picard. Now, we have said before, we have felt that the show didn't live up to the potential that it had, bringing back Jean-Luc Picard, bringing back, of course, Patrick Stewart in the role, that they kind of have danced around the big story that is available to them. And this season is going to feature a lot of the members of the Next Generation cast for the first time, as we see in the show. We're going to obviously go into spoilerful detail about the episode as we go through, of course. So make sure you've watched that before we continue, or before you continue listening to the podcast. But I do feel like this season is going to live up that potential that was set out at the beginning of the show. That's what it feels like. It feels like they've taken that detour away from just telling a story about an older Jean-Luc Picard to actually tell a story following up on the old adventures of Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah. So I'll be brutally honest, opening up in I was pretty harsh, and rightly so, on what happened on season 2 in terms of how I started to feel towards the end of the season. And harsh, probably even harsh is even too harsh of a word. I gave a lot of constructive criticism. I was never mean, just a lot of constructive, and I think we all kind of veered towards areas of that over the course of season 2.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's because we had a lot of hope and dreams and kind of expectations of where they could go and how they may do things. And there was some promise of that in season 1. Very much. There was like, there's a sprinkling, here's potentially a larger story, blah, blah, blah. Season 2 just veered dramatically to the left.
Yeah.
Completely in terms of even story. And I think while we had got to know a lot of characters over those 2 seasons, this is giving us something different that we probably wanted from the beginning, which is, as you say, what did happen with Riker in the 20 years? Where's Crusher? Where's Worf? Where's Jordan LaFord? Like, give us those stories. Give us that, the memoirs. And he jokes about it. Spoiler. He jokes about writing a memoir. This is the preface to his memoirs. This is the story before it all finishes and he writes it down.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, you would assume so. And again, I don't want to rehash too much about what we talked about on the podcast. If you want to hear our thoughts on each of the episodes, you can pop on over to tvpodcastindustries.com. There is a feed there for the Star Trek Picard podcast where we have all of our thoughts there. But I know one of the big things in season 2 was because it was filmed during COVID period and we had some older people on the cast, including, of course, Patrick Stewart, that they were being very cautious about filming, and that really seeped into the performances and the show itself. So we did give it a little bit of a pass last season because of that. And I'm hoping with everybody on board in the filming that was done for this show that they're able to really put their stamp on it, because Star Trek Next Generation was never about one character. It was an ensemble cast. It's great to have Patrick Stewart back, but it's also going to be good to catch up with all of the rest of the crew.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
But of course, we want to hear your thoughts about the show. Please email us with any of your thoughts to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And that email address is also going to be used for our third pub quiz for Star Trek Picard Season 3. We have our 10 Forward pub quiz where we'll be giving out one question each episode of Star Trek Picard, and you'll be able to get your hands on some Star Trek Picard goodies. If you answer all those questions correctly, we'll be putting you into a hat, and one of our wonderful fellow Trekkies and Trekkers will win some Star Trek Picard goodies.
Absolutely.
So the first question will be coming up later on in the episode.
Yes, let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Episode 1 of Season 3, The Next Generation. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, of course, Star Trek Picard is based on characters created by Gene Roddenberry, and the showrunner for the show is Terry Matalas. The story for this episode was written by Akiva Goldsman and Terry Matalas, and the episode was directed by Doug Arniakowski. Doug Arniakowski has been involved in the show since the beginning of Season 1. Episode 7 of Season 1 was directed by him, and the first 2 episodes of Season 2 as well. So back again for the first episode and the second episode of Season 3.
Good stuff.
So, John, do you want to set the table for us? Do you want to give us your synopsis for Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1, The Next Generation?
Sure. Preparing to leave Chateau Picard and head off with Laris to the Romulan planet Shaltok 4, Jean-Luc Picard receives an urgent and cryptic distress call from former crewmate Dr. Beverly Crusher, who is being hunted and under attack aboard her ship, the Elios. Admiral Jean-Luc Picard meets up with Will Riker and enlists his help to find Beverly, who is hiding in the Ryton system outside of Federation space. Pretending to undertake an inspection of the USS Titan, Will's former command ship, in preparation for Frontier Day, they are welcomed aboard by a friendly-faced Commander Annika Hansen, aka 7 of 9. The welcome from Captain Shaw is decidedly less warm, as they discuss the inspection plan over dinner. He denies the new plan proposed by Jean-Luc and Will that, unknown to Shaw, would have taken the starship towards the Ryton system, where Jean-Luc and Will plan to obtain a shuttle to search for the Elios. But the perceptive 7 of 9 is wise to them, and goes behind her captain's back to deliver them to the Ryton system. Elsewhere, Raffi is deep undercover as a Starfleet intelligence officer on the planet of Metalis Prime, investigating the disappearance of a highly classified experimental weapon from Daystrom Laboratories. Convinced of an imminent attack using the stolen weapon by her mysterious handler, Raffi follows a lead from her dealer about the Red Lady that comes too late to prevent the attack. Having managed to commandeer a shuttle from the Titan, Will and Jean-Luc locate and board the Elios, where they find evidence of a battle and the injured Beverly in a stasis chamber. They are not alone, however, meeting Beverly's son just as another ship falls out of warp to attack the Elios.
Excellent. And if you're joining us for the first time for our Star Trek Picard podcast, we covered by talking about our 3 major points from the episode. We start off with our little point, which is usually a line that we enjoyed from the episode, a medium point, our Omega Directive, which is a scene that we enjoyed from the episode, and our Prime Directive, our main point from the episode that we want to talk about. So we're going to start off with our small moment from the episode.
Make it so, number 1.
So John, what's your small moment from the episode, a moment that you enjoyed?
Well, I think it is Will and Jean-Luc making it so, but being utterly humiliated aboard the USS Titan with very cramped living conditions, as they are bunk buddies for their trip on this subterfuge and unplanned inspection of the Titan. I guess, we're covering The Last of Us at the moment, where there's talk about people's age and their knees and being able to get up the stairs from Joel. But I just like here that Riker being on the top bunk, but realizing that his weaker bladder as he's gotten older means he just, he didn't realize he was going to be up and down off the top bunk quite as often as he had been whilst staying on board the Titan.
Fun little moment, yeah.
It was a good little moment.
I had to say, I got little flashbacks to Star Trek Lower Decks, the animated series, where everybody sleeps in bunks.
Exactly.
In that show,
so it was just a nice little moment, I think, with the two of them. I really love these two characters and the actors, and you just get the sense of that camaraderie, even where Jean-Luc is on the deck of the Titan, and he says to Seven of Nine, don't you need to inform engineering that we're going to warp 9? And it's like, no, it's all being automated. And he goes, that will make excellent. You'll be captain of your own ship soon enough. And it's like Riker's good save there.
Exactly.
Like, shut up, Riker. That just kind of those little to and fro's between these two characters is just a delight for me, and I just like that little scene in their quarters as bunk buddies.
Absolutely. I have one of my scenes that I really liked as well is also from Picard and Riker, because obviously they are central to this episode. But I like the moment just before they arrive on the Elios to find Dr. Crusher, and Picard stands up, his hand hurting, and goes, "Oh, that's the adrenaline rush." and Riker going, "Oh, my knees are really sore." So as long as we don't have to shoot or run, we'll be fine in this situation, which I just really like that they've brought this in, because of course they are much older in these roles than they would have been doing these kind of adventures in the past. So that's my small moment for the episode. What about yourself, Chris?
Personally, it's not even a moment from the episode per se. It is the actual, the world and the visuals.
Yeah.
Of Picard, because just the long shot we get as they in their own shuttle go towards the space station, and just seeing this rotating space station in minute details.
Yeah. Looks fun.
Just huge.
Yeah.
Take for example then the world Raffi's on.
Yeah.
With like seeing the more shady underbelly, and they've got so much kind of like just spattered into the details in the background.
Yeah. Metalis Prime, the planet that she's on, of course, named after Terry Metalis, the showrunner of the show, I would presume.
Oh,
it's
there you go.
only one letter difference, so I'm presuming that he's finally got to name a planet after himself.
Yeah. Tell us.
Exactly, as you would, of course, if you were showrunner for a Star Trek show. Huh?
Yes. And then the final one is the city. The city at the end where Raffi is trying to contact, like you see the nice population kind of comparison to the Talos. And again, it's just the details they have there of there's a few trees and if you pause it, there's a few people walking around in the park, and like so much minute details in comparison to say the last season where we didn't get as many establishing shots, if you want to call them that, or just it was more, here's LA in 2022. And it's like, we know what that looks like. This is just more. I enjoy it because it is kind of, that is the thing about Star Trek. It is a sci-fi show. So this science fiction based view of what some of these worlds look like, these places look like. And they're green, and there's no climate change, and the ozone's still there, and it's not destroyed, and there's a nice little ship flying through the air.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that. I just really enjoy watching these very kind of small moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's like you said, I'm really pleased that this story, at least so far, I'm not expecting there's going to be any time travel, is set in their time. It matters to their time now.
Yeah.
I'm really glad they've decided not to do a timey-wimey element here for
this season.
Yeah.
Seems like it anyway.
Yeah.
Although I would suspect that we will have enemy coming from the past, as the show is going to be all about rekindling their history together. So I'm presuming that.
But I'm guessing it's not time travel. It's their past. So it is, in living memory.
Exactly. And of course.
Really old William Shatner.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking as well, my planet would probably be called J-On.
It would be, yeah. Isn't that Martian Manhunter from the DC universe? Isn't his name John?
John.
Yeah.
John Jones.
There you go. Anyway, that's definitely another one. But yeah, I do like the visuals for this show. It does look absolutely beautiful, and of course, the destruction that is wrought on the final planet at the end of the episode does stand out so much more when you see how much detail is put into it in the establishing shots of it as well. Really cool. Let's move on to our medium point for the episode, our Omega Directive.
Implement the Omega Directive immediately.
So, John, what's your Omega Directive? What's your medium moment from the episode?
It's the scene. It's dinner with Shaw.
Oh, yes.
Dinner with Captain Shaw. This is just fantastic. I really, really enjoy it when they write into episodes, just people who are not blown away by the reputation of, anyone. In this case, Picard and Riker. It's just so frosty, it's just so procedural. Even just, as they walk in for dinner, he's eating already, and Jean-Luc says, oh, apologies, are we late? He goes, no, your reputation preceded you so far into the room. I started early. And you're just like, oh no, you just sense that it's like not going to go off to get off to a good start.
Yeah.
Even
and just the face on Jonathan Frakes as well as Will Riker. He knows this is going to be a very difficult meeting.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's even towards the end, Shaw's like, I love you guys, I really do, but we're not doing this change in the inspection. As far as he's concerned, you won't find any dust on his ship. He's done everything, but I just love the whole setup where, I've purged that bebop from the system when I took over any structure. I'm not a fan of jazz, although I give him points for that one.
I agree.
And even with the gift from Picard, a bottle of Chateau Picard. He goes, I'm more of a Malbec man myself, but thanks. I just thought this was superb.
Absolutely.
It gets a little bit fruity, I guess, towards the end with, the fact that he, towards 7 of 9, he says, your loyalty is to this ship, Commander Hansen. Not to former friends or ex-Borg, which elicits Riker effectively to do a bit of a, stand down moment with him. Kind of a pointed remark to both his own commander, but also to Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
So, I just thought this was a great setup. I mean, it's kind of that similarity with season 2 with having Q there, who really, just likes to rile up Jean-Luc the wrong way.
Yes,
and
proper antagonist.
you get that very much from Shaw here.
Yeah.
So I just absolutely thought this scene was sort of chef's kiss for this dinner table.
Yes.
So yeah, really enjoyed it.
Really good. Really great to see Todd Stashwick back here on the show. Like, this is the first time in Star Trek Picard, of course, but he's just got such a varied career. He's been around for done like hundreds of episodes of TV, right back to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I know we talked about him when he was on Gotham, playing Richard Sionis, The Mask, and I think season 1 of Gotham. So all that long way ago. So great to see him here. He's just such a great character actor to bring on board, and he just the disdain that he has for these people that would actually board his ship and tell him what to do. That moment where he's saying to Picard that he's not going to listen to him, and Picard goes, well, I'm an admiral, and he goes, retired, and Riker says, I'm a captain, and he goes, with no chair. This is my ship, I've had it for 5 years, and I'm answering to other people who have bigger pay grades than any of us in this room. Love it. Absolutely brilliant little moment from Shaw in here. Any thoughts on the dinner with Shaw, Chris?
I love Todd Stashwick, so when I saw him, I was just so happy. He's also a big tabletop role player, so does a lot of D&D as well.
Right.
So absolutely fantastic. I was actually drinking water and did a spit take on the, it sounds terrible, but I did. I might as well tell you guys. Yeah. Tell the audience. When just on that kind of reputation precede you, because it's just, ooh.
It really is handbags.
A sassy cat just in the background.
It is, isn't it? It's handbags at dawn. Yeah. It really is.
It's even like that intro when they're talking to 7 of 9, and she and they go, Riker says, I'm really looking forward to meeting him. She goes, you may have to lower your expectations quite a lot.
Exactly.
I love this.
Yeah.
Great.
They just, because they basically set him up before you even meet him as a character you're going to hate.
Yeah.
And he does not disappoint.
Exactly.
And that kind of leads me to my point, because we brought it up a couple of times here, but there still seems to be a lot of xenophobia or Borg phobia or around the Borgs again. This was kind of a main topic in season 1.
It was, yeah.
We saw that Seven had kind of chose to kind of go back to Starfleet to try and push through this at the end of season 2. And there was just immediately you are brought back to, oh no, they still hate them all. They still hate Borgs or ex-Borgs or ex-Bs. Well, not hate probably is a strong term, but there's definitely a phobia or xenophobia there, because we see Picard tries to introduce her of 7 and 9, and she goes, it's Annika. And she gives her human name.
Yeah.
And she said, Captain Shaw prefers that.
Exactly. He tells me I can't use any other name, effectively. Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's a nice little background touch to it, because of course racism and xenophobia don't just go away because people have been nice and that people have been saved. So just because 7 of 9 is a character that we all love and had a great arc in season 1 and in season 2, it doesn't mean it's stretched out through everybody that hated all the ex-Borgs throughout season 1 and season 2. Yeah, so to have a character here that is still holding on to those issues he had in the past, again, adds an extra layer to this captain.
Yeah. And I thought it was just going to be a dropped line or two, but then again, when we do see at the table, as John was talking about, that kind of handbags at dawn, he brings up Locutus, he brings up the Borg again. Yeah. He brings up loyalty to the Borg, or ex-Borg, pointedly talking about Picard. So again, I'm wondering if there's some form, if this is just this is how Seven or Annika kind of decides to continue further and help further on this season, because she's just going to renounce her post and that's it. I'm done. I'm done with the xenophobia, done with the racism. I'm just done with it. Or maybe it's setting up more. Maybe it's setting up nothing. Maybe it's just a nice to have. Yeah.
Well, it is what pushes her over the edge to help Picard and Riker, right? These
we
moments.
assume, like, based on how she talks about it in the room with Riker and Picard and herself, talking about how she wanted to lead with motivation and authority and kind of lead being herself and her authentic self almost.
Yeah, I really like that. It's where I like the fact that 7 and 9 knows something fishy is going on with these two arriving, and it's almost, it's confirmed over that dinner table where Picard slips up around the deep space station that they're going for, and that she then pulls them from their bunking, I guess, to the observation deck, just to be frank with them. And then ultimately,
she's Frank, or
she's Frank.
She was 7.
She's Frank of 7. Yeah. Just to effectively disobey the orders of her commanding officer, Captain Shaw. But I like that conversation that she has with Picard. Am I in the right place? And, I want to follow my gut, be like you two as leaders, and not just following orders from someone she clearly doesn't like. But Picard has this gut instinct that she's in the right place. That, and that actually, if anyone knew whether they were in the right place, what's your secret to, because I'd like to know that myself. It's kind of, I just like that conversation. I guess it's almost careers advice in the Star Trek universe.
But it's really difficult for Seven. Like, she was encouraged to rejoin Starfleet because of Picard, and a little nod here, a little mention of her former Captain Janeway, now Admiral Janeway, who has encouraged her to go back, saying she needs to be in Starfleet. But Annika was never in Starfleet at all before. She had been kidnapped as a child, turned into a Borg, and had lived her life as a Borg until Voyager saved her, effectively. So this is her first time under the real rules and restrictions of the real Starfleet, let's say, because the team that she joined were made up of an amalgam of two warring factions, the Maquis and Starfleet. So she never really worked under Starfleet. She had spent some time as a Fenris Ranger, as we saw her last season. So very much acting on instinct, protecting people, saving people, making her choices. And now she has to sit under a captain who intrinsically dislikes what she was in the past and doesn't trust people like her. So you can see why she turns on them and helps out Picard and Riker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we may see other kind of X-Borg pop up. Like, it may play a part of this greater story because this season is supposedly pulling a lot of core things from the past of kind of the Next Generation. One of the biggest being the Borg. It played in season 1. It played parts of season 2.
Yeah.
I think it may... I don't think it will be a central point. I think it just might be something in the background.
Yeah, I do wonder about this. I have a feeling we're actually not going to see much more of that storyline. I wonder if what we're going to get is maybe the setup of the Titan as a new ship that could go on to maybe a new series, a spin-off series from Star Trek Picard. They seem to have set up a cast of characters here. They all got an announcement of their casting. There's some interesting characters aboard here, including one of Geordi LaForge's daughters. So I wonder, will we see the Titan maybe get a spin-off in the future? And this might be the only moment we'll see them. Probably not. I think there's a moment at the end of this episode that tells you we may see them coming back next episode to help out Riker and Picard as they're in their big predicament at the end.
But really quickly, you could be onto something, because this does drop the Star Trek down to 4 series. Mm-hmm. You've got Lower Deck. You've got the other kids one.
Prodigy.
Prodigy. You've got Discovery.
Yeah.
Coming back next season, and
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So this will leave a gap in their scheduling at the end of Picard.
Yeah.
Because that will be gone. So there is a potential that they may do a new series of something or other. Absolutely.
There is that long rumoured series that's supposed to be still in production, or still ready to go, featuring Michelle Yeoh, but she is now Oscar-nominated Michelle Yeoh, so they may have missed their opportunity to do their spin-off series with her, which would have been fantastic because she was great in Star Trek Discovery. But yeah, you never know. I'm sure Paramount are not going to turn down a series for Star Trek that might make them money. So if we do get a spin-off of the Titan, that would be quite interesting.
It would make sense because Strange New Worlds is past. Mm-hmm. Discovery is future. Yeah. They need something in the current outside of the two. Kind of outside of the animated shows.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. In the 25th century. Yes. Very cool. I know we don't podcast those other Star Trek shows either, though. But did you guys hear that we will be getting a live action crossover, or maybe an animated crossover between Star Trek Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, coming up very soon.
Yeah.
Will Jack Quaid play himself?
See, nobody's really sure whether it's live action and Jack Quaid will play himself on Strange New Worlds, or whether it's going to be animated and all the cast of Strange New Worlds will be using their voices on Lower Decks. So nobody's really sure. They've announced the crossover between the two. I believe it's live action, is my understanding.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
But anyway,
that'd be great.
Good stuff, though. It is good to see this story of the Borg in the show, and the story of 7 and 9 in the show. Good medium point, Chris. For my one, I want to talk quickly about Laris Orla Brady again, coming back for the 3rd season of the show. Orla Brady, we really enjoyed in the last 2 seasons of Star Trek Picard, even though she was only kind of bookending the show in season 2. She had a great part in season 1, and unfortunately just saying goodbye to her at the beginning of this episode. We see that their relationship has continued. All of season 1 was about Picard overcoming that idea that he was going to be alone for the rest of his life, and connecting with Laris and creating their relationship together effectively. And they start off this season as the two of them about to leave and head off to Romulus, to one of the planets in around that sector of the universe, Chaltak 4, where he's going to be sitting down in a bar, drinking wine, writing his memoirs, waiting for Laris while she goes off and explores the world. And she realizes, as soon as this communication comes in from Beverly, that Jean-Luc is going to have to once again go off on another adventure, because he can't turn down this call from his past. That's this person that's clearly desperate and has reached out for him. So I really like those moments with the two of them. I like that Laris is calling out, well, this is who we are. This is the people that we have chosen to be. So we can't ignore calls like this. This is who we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's still hope for meeting at that bar at the end of the world. Once Jean-Luc has helped Beverly out. So, it's not that it's over. It's whether Jean-Luc makes it out alive from this new adventure. I really liked how Laris here, in a sense, just centered Picard, where she says, as a former intelligence officer, she's clearly terrified and out of options and is asking for only you, Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
You and only you, to help her. Because it is, it's an important point here we see with Beverly's transmission. It's using an old codex, connected to, Jean-Luc's captain transmitter from back in the day.
Yeah, lucky it was in the same room as him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like you'd
It
expect.
was all getting packed up, you see.
Lucky his hearing is still somewhat good.
Absolutely. Oh no, I know it was all being packed up, but you'd assume that you'd have a message forwarding system on your old comm badge from 22 years ago.
Well, I'm assuming she hacked it. That actually it doesn't work as such anymore, even though it's got that latent activity in it, because
I think she's just ringing his old mobile phone, basically, that's left
maybe,
in a box and happens to have a permanent
it could
charge
be
on
that.
it.
Yeah, it could be that. And so I just liked how she kind of centered him to focus him back and effectively convince him to go ahead with it to some extent. And, with this promise to meet up at this lovely bar that's got a great sunset at the end.
And she also knows what she's getting herself into. He says that he's going to go for just 2 days, probably, maybe less. And she goes, probably more. So she knows exactly who Jean-Luc is, and is there to support him. So I just liked having a moment here with Orla Brady again and with Laris.
Definitely.
So, and knowing that their relationship is sound again, even though it seems like he's going overboard. It seems like he's going to get rid of all of his memorabilia, all of his past, all of his historical things that he's been looking at for the last number of years, reliving the glory days, because he doesn't want to be a person that just relives his glory days, right? So
that is true.
But she knows.
But look, even in the 25th century, Marie Kondo, does this bring joy? Still rings true.
That's exactly.
Does this bring joy? No, put it in a box.
But great,
exactly.
Yeah,
dump it.
But great also to see that wonderful painting of the Enterprise. I believe that used to sit in the Enterprise itself.
It did in the ready room, Captain's ready room.
Yeah, and he's going to send it off to Geordie.
Yes, who's now at a fleet museum.
I feel like he won't be there for long.
I think so too.
I hope we're going to see him later on in the season. Anyway,
he was in the trailers for this.
He was. He had his own poster for the season, so hopefully we're going to see him later on in the season.
I think there's no hope.
That's
about
it. That's actually what we
him.
see.
Yeah.
We don't actually see him. We just see a poster.
We just see a poster
It's
of
in
him,
the background for the museum. Our director is no longer here. Have you seen this man? And it's just a poster.
But at least we've seen one of his daughters already, so likely we'll see actual Lord of the Force himself in the future. Good stuff. That's my media moment, my Omega directive. Let's get on to our prime directive, our big moment from the episode.
We must face the ramifications of the prime directive.
So, John, what's your big moment from Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1?
Well, I think just, quick change in tack here. It is Raffi and the Red Lady. I really enjoyed this introduction of Raffi. I'm really so glad that as one of the original casts from season 1 and there in season 2 that she's still in this, because I absolutely love the character and I think Michelle Hurd does a great role here.
Yeah.
I love how you thought she had sunk back into her substance abuse from the first season. And I like just the switcheroo here, that, she's not a druggie, but she's, undercover for Starfleet intelligence as an officer. I like the intrigue that we've got here with her mysterious handler. Who is it?
Who is it?
Giving her the advice through, the screen. I really enjoyed that. So I kind of just like that whole setup. I like the whole kind of undercut that they did, that she hasn't descended back into her substance abuse or wallowing because nothing's worked out, but she's taken this role. I love the look of Metalis Prime here. Almost felt Star Warsy. To an extent, with all the neon, and
a proper hive of scum and villainy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that her story is her girlfriend has left her. She's, fallen off the wagon, and she's out of Starfleet, and she's looking to get information so that she can sell it or give it to Starfleet in order to sort of get good favor to come back in. So she gets this lead with her dealer, that something is going down with the Red Lady. And I just kind of liked how that kind of went along with, is it a person? Is it a buyer or a seller? Is it an organization? And it's all linking in for, her actual mission, which is looking for the organization or the people who stole an experimental weapon from Daystrom, which we saw in the first season.
We did,
and that there is this kind of going through all the different data sets to try and find out, and then she hits on that it could be. The Red Lady could actually be the target, and you get then this fantastic sort of last-ditch attempt to try and prevent this imminent attack that's suspected using this new experimental weapon, which is kind of like a portal. It looks like it comes from the video game Portal.
Yes.
So it's just on a bigger scale. So,
Except rather than one being orange and one being blue, they're both orange.
Yes, they're both orange, and effectively they portal an entire Starfleet and Federation building in District 7 of Metalis Prime to drop itself on the city, which I thought was really cool. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
I liked how this was done. I mean, that's a weapon, I guess, to be able to do that. And the Red Lady ultimately...
Prime, was it? That was on Metalis Prime,
yeah,
was it?
that's what I'm assuming,
right.
Because she's there doing the undercover work, and ultimately she's talking about District 7.
Right.
Like, we've not seen her go off-world or go at warp anywhere else, so I'm just assuming it's still on Metalis Prime.
Right.
And this Red Lady is actually the target. It's the statue of Rachel Garrett outside of this Federation outpost on Metalis Prime, and there is a dedication ceremony to her. The other side of it in this episode is, there are these celebrations for Frontier Day coming up as well. So potentially another attack here, and this will be how it intersects with Raffi connecting back in with Jean-Luc and 7 of 9 even.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope that cover story that they broke up is literally the cover story that she has, that we haven't lost that relationship between Raffi and 7.
Yeah,
well,
me
if
too.
She's deep undercover for months.
Yeah.
You can assume maybe it's strained, at least.
Or Annika knows,
Yeah.
At the end of the day, she's gone off to go into Starfleet, so she's been massively busy herself. So they may have just decided that their relationship's fine if it's a long distance relationship now.
A long distance, long time relationship.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's my big point. It's just this other side of it. It's coming back to this weapon. Is it connected with the whole distress call from Beverly? Is that part of it? And how does that link in? So it was kind of nice to see these big action moments as well. I mean, I really liked that. I mean, I think, like you were saying, Chris, about, the worlds and the cities and the ships and the visuals, I think the last season, you kind of got that at the start and at the end, and everything else in between was 2022 LA, which, is fine. But these vistas, these worlds, these big jaw-dropping, massive weaponry action scenes is just really, really good.
Yeah.
So, I like that. Portal.
Yeah.
Portal being used as a weapon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a cool one.
To your question of will this kind of tie everything together? Will it bring the characters together? Is it all connected? I'm going to take a swing and say yes.
Yeah, me too. yeah, I agree.
It is a weapon of unknown capability, be a research facility, and it is basically a portal gun. Yeah, like it's terroristic. It's good. For me, I like the bait and switch from the narrative perspective that they give us in this episode. Because again, it's been a couple of months. We know that from last season to now. And then actually beyond, I like that they set up the struggle in Raffi on the substance abuse again.
Yeah.
That she's like, you don't know how hard this is for me to being this deep cover, being back here, down here with this stuff.
Yes. You kind of assume that you wouldn't put an ex-junkie in undercover. But
beside drugs
or as a junkie. You know, it's a difficult thing to get over. So why would you put them back in there? But again, she knows all the moves and knows all the things to say. So she's probably the exact right person. But if you are going to put them in, putting them deep undercover for 4 months is a very, very difficult situation to be in.
Well, and and I mean, to that point with the bait and switch of Raffi's story as well, there is just that nice moment once she, you know, does the comlink as the intel officer going back and relaying the info. It's just her. It's a really just good scene of her looking at the substance that she's just been dealed by her dealer, and having that 2-second thought before dropping it on the floor. You know, it's just that reminder. It's just a nice little touch that they did here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, agreed.
Yeah, and her handler also reminds her of her past as well. So when showing that she had previously been dishonorably discharged, had some major issues with Starfleet, and they know all about them, of course. So we don't know at all who this handler is, but I suspect it's someone that we may know.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
could be Worf.
I was trying to take some inspiration from the words that were being said by the computer, the female voiced computer, and whether it could be a character that we know from the past, but didn't get too much from it. It was just that saying it was an active war and you're a warrior made me think of Klingons, made me think of Worf. So I was wondering if Worf could be your handler. Yeah,
it would make sense. Security officer goes into intelligence.
Be an interesting one. That's your major moment for the episode, John?
Yep, it certainly is.
Excellent. Good stuff. How about yourself, Chris? What's your major moment that you want to talk about from the episode?
Oh, John took it. There's nothing for me to discuss. There's nothing more.
Right.
I'll do the cold open. I'll take the cold open and Bev on the run.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I'm singing the Beatles here. Bev on the run instead of Band on the run. I'm singing the Beatles. Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant for a second. You're so learned and wise.
The Beatles. Yes.
Old,
exactly, Chris. Exactly.
Really, for me, it was a nice cold open. It gave me enough curiosity against all the bits, like from the slow pan over kind of the ship, to the log playing in the background, to just then kind of locking someone into one of the forward holds or the aft deck or something into a room. And then just seeing Beverly or like Crusher in a more militaristic kind of fighting, like guns akimbo style, and getting hurt, and it left you with way more questions, which is what you want from that level of an open.
Absolutely.
It's like, here's a character that you've known and loved for like 130 plus episodes of a show, grown up. Some people watching this have grown up with this character. And you're gonna put her in a place that she's not supposed to be. Yeah. You're gonna basically throw in enough nostalgia in the kind of foreground and background that you're like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Some aliens you've never seen, sprinkled on top.
Yeah.
A doctor disintegrating people.
Yes. Yeah.
Twice.
This is not
Hippocratic oath. That.
Literally, as she stands over one of them and basically does a shot between the eyes, standing over one of them that's already hurt.
Yes, this is not phasers set to stun here at all, is it?
Not at all.
No.
Yeah. The thing I liked about that was as well when Riker and Jean-Luc come aboard and effectively run through forensically kind of that whole scene at the start, sort of examining it. So you know,
CSI Starfleet.
This kind of ash from the species, never seen that before. It's a direct shot down, like you were talking about. It's cold, calculated, and you know, Picard saying Beverly would only do that in defense, which I mean ultimately it was. So I just loved how that kind of mirrored their walkthrough as they board on the Elios as well.
Yeah. I for me, it was just culminating in that ending of, oh wait, is she dead? Like, have you just, have you I know, probably part of me.
You knew she wasn't dead.
I knew she wasn't. There's still that small sliver of, I say hope, that sounds terrible, right? But in that, there's been some shows that we've watched where they're really bold, like narratively, where they're like, hey, you love this character for, boom, they're dead. Oh, no, it's okay, they'll be back. No, they're dead. Like, that's it. You've said your goodbye. Like, cause part of me for a second did think it was going to cold open and then we would get some form of funeral.
Right, okay.
And then that's the kid jump off point. Yeah. What was she doing here? Blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. That's part of me, and I was like, that's a bold choice.
Right. I'm so glad they didn't do it. I'm really glad that Gates McFadden is back. One of my favourite members of cast from Star Trek Next Generation, and the only member of the cast I've actually met in person, and she's absolutely lovely. Really, really lovely lady. So I met her back in the 90s. So, yeah. Absolutely lovely. So great to have her back here, and I'm sure we're going to have some great moments throughout the season as other members of the cast come back. But I just couldn't believe at all that they would take her out at the start of this season. I could see them, you know, getting Ensign number 5 from season 3 of Next Generation coming back, and maybe they might be killed. But as this is the reunion series, you cannot keep Dr. Beverly Crusher separated from the rest of the cast. If everybody else is coming back, you can't have her not appear on screen with at least one member of the team. So we do have that moment that obviously Picard comes on board and sees Beverly and reveals that she is still there and has been kept alive in the stasis chamber from her injuries. So yes. So I feel like she's going to form a much bigger part of the story given the other revelation.
Yeah, one of the big things is that she disappeared 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. She basically cut all ties and essentially just left.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as that progresses throughout the episode, you're like, you do have a lot of questions.
Definitely.
I thought for potentially, like, because of what Laris has said at the beginning about Crusher, you're like, oh, okay, Picard was Picard. He was extra Picard and basically drove her away.
Okay.
And I was like, no, okay, that's going to be a tough storyline to kind of fully rack through, but sure, okay, give us that. And then it's only when Riker confirms as well, like, she cut off ties with everyone, supposedly. So when we got to find out now, like, is she still in contact with kind of LaForge? Was she ever still in contact with Worf? And all the other major? Did she still speak to her son? Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And we can assume that essentially that 20-year gap was due to a 20-something-year-old son who is revealed at the end.
Yes. That is an interesting reveal, isn't it?
It is, yeah. She has another son.
Mm-hmm.
Picard's son? Are we putting in money on this?
Maybe. It's just that weird line from Laris that says, you did try to have a relationship with her, and Picard says, well, I tried, or try is the operative word. It sounds like they never actually got together at all. That's what it sounds like. And that's one of the most interesting things about this story that they have here, where they're saying that Crusher disappeared for 20 years, because I know there's books and comic books that have dealt with time after the end of the Next Generation. I'm sure Beverly Crusher was involved with them. So effectively, they've just thrown all those out the window and gone, nope, she never had any connection with anybody else from the crew of the Enterprise, so that they can set up this story, which is the real, I suppose, in-universe story of what happened to her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Picard, there was a whole storyline in Next Generation where Picard had a son. And it turned out it was a fake, and it was a Ferengi thing. and I think it was Frankies or the Romulans. It was one of the bad aliens.
Right.
For a bit. But essentially they wanted Picard to know what it was like to lose a son. So they changed the kid's DNA, who kind of looked like Patrick Stewart or Jean-Luc Picard. Changed his DNA to be...
Bald.
Basically,
Really young.
bald and young. To be essentially Picard. Or the son of Picard. And that's what killed the kid.
Right.
Or nearly killed the kid. So he hasn't. In universe, technically Picard is without children. Sans children, if you will.
Exactly. He just has his nephews, right?
Yeah. So this could be interesting. This could set, like, again, I know we're jumping a mile, but like, I think then that does set it up for something unique in that, well, he can still go on and have time with Laris.
Yeah.
But his time on the Enterprise has moved forward because it's basically they sired the next generation.
There you go. There you go.
The name of the episode.
The title of the episode, absolutely.
Yes.
It does have echoes of the Captain Kirk storyline from Star Trek 3, that former girlfriend disappeared and turns out she has a son, and he's the one that Kirk now has to care for. It also got some shades in the episode of Star Trek 3 from the fact that they're gathering the old crew back together who no longer have ships. They're gathering them back together to go on this one mission together. That's kind of the season, but that is Star Trek. It will echo back to its previous shows and movies. You know, of course, when you've done hundreds of episodes of TV, you have explored a lot of the stories, but re-exploring them with bigger budgets and in a different way is always going to be fun.
Yeah.
So I am really excited about how the story will play out for the season.
I did like as well how just Beverly's son just adds a little bit more context as well to that cold opening where he says, you know, we're being hunted or we've been hunted. Each time it's a different face, a different species and a new ship, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's really
of course,
intriguing.
with the arrival of the new ship,
big spiky ship.
Big spiky ship, which kind of reminded me a bit of Praetor Shinzon's ship.
Tom Hardy, the clone of Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. It kind of looked a bit like that with the spiky things coming out. Then,
what was that, Star Trek Insurrection, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. So I thought that was just kind of a nice little bit of quick information that we got here. So we probably won't see those clicker type species that came in that Beverly shot and disintegrated effectively. They were kind of their language was kind of in clicks.
Oh, right. I just thought you were flashing back to The Last of Us again.
Well, it
for a
could be
second.
that. Everything is clicking at the moment.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be really intriguing to see how these villains play out for the rest of the series. I like the idea that they have changed their face and ship every time. So are they all different? Is this a whole group of people formed from loads of different races, or is this some trick that they're playing? We don't know at all. We don't get enough information at all.
Or what are they hunting that's in Helios, in the Helios ship?
You would presume it's Beverly's son, right? It has to be something like that because they've been on the run for 20 years. And he mentions how many systems they've gone through and how they keep finding them. So he obviously got a tracker inside him that they keep following. I haven't thought about that yet, but maybe that's why I'm being followed everywhere.
Do you think it could have something to do with Wesley Crusher being a traveler, i.e. that all the Crushers have some form of power, have some ability to be these travelers throughout time and space and everything?
That sounds very science fiction-y.
Exactly. So it could be it.
Could be, yeah.
You never know.
But also, this new son that we just meet, his accent is so British.
Yes, it is.
It was like, what now?
Are you just trying to tell us that it's Picard's son and that's why he has a British accent, even though he's been living with his American mom aboard the ship for 20 years?
That is true.
Or is there another reason? Yes.
Yes, but it was just, I was listening and even the manner, not even the manners, the choice of words and how he says it.
Yes.
It was just like, oh boy.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if he was offering anybody a cup of tea and some biscuits.
Yeah, exactly.
Earl Grey, tepid. But before we do that,
well, that's it. But I guess country boundaries are kind of gone from the Federation a bit, not entirely, because
well, Laris has an Irish accent, so yeah. In this galaxy, everybody can have
even
whatever
I was just
accent they
meaning
want.
on Earth. I know there is Chateau Picard, but it's in LA effectively now. It's not at the ancestral home back in France.
That's like Disney World and Disneyland, isn't it?
I guess so.
Anyway, yes,
Let's move forward.
quite a big moment in this episode with Beverly Crusher. We've kind of talked about the other big moment of the episode because that is obviously Jean-Luc and Will getting back together and traveling together and the whole excitement of. But I just wanted to call out really quickly that it does seem like everybody's getting court-martialed. We didn't really mention it, but you know the 7 of 9, Annika, is number 1 commander on this ship to a captain that she's just overturned his orders. He's effectively knows what they're doing, and Admiral Picard and Riker could also lose their commission. Admiral Picard calls that out on the way to them. If they mess up this whole plan of theirs, Will could lose everything that he's built effectively and his entire reputation. He's probably beyond losing his reputation. He is Admiral Picard. He's done stuff like this in the past and he is retired with that Admiral credit. But it looks like everybody could be court-martialed for going through with this plan to save Beverly Crusher.
It does look like that. Because, I mean, even Shaw finding out and giving 7 of 9 a tough time. Yes. I want all the details in a report, now, effectively.
Yeah. So I presume she's not going to be in Starfleet for much longer and may join up with the newly formed crew of whatever ship.
But who knows? Even as rogues, they could save the Federation. In which case, they become heroes. I mean, it is that point, story, isn't it, of Shaw's conversation around the dinner table. You know, I'm structured. I have meticulously organized this ship. I don't just go off and do random stuff, blowing up things. That's not my style. It is kind of like your old school. Yes. This is how Starfleet does it now.
Exactly.
And so, it's that kind of clash of cultures. Like you see with the reboot of the Star Trek films with, Captain Kirk, and it is the whole point of going with my gut from 7 of 9, and compared to the more military type way of following orders, and everything is disciplined, structured.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but there will be some disciplining and
I would say
some restructuring of this group. I think after they've done this plan.
I would say so.
Starfleet is basically going to be Oprah Winfrey. You get a court-martial, and you get a court-martial, and you get a court-martial. Everyone gets a court-martial.
Exactly. If they can catch them. Them.
Exactly.
But that's it. That's my major moment, my prime directive for the episode. A couple of little Easter eggs and notes for the episode. Any other things to mention? One that I wanted to call out was just interesting conversation from Riker, mentioning that apparently Deanna and his daughter Kestra could do with some time without him. What's he been doing at home? That's annoying the two of them so much that they'd be willing to have him go off on an adventure with Picard again.
Playing jazz, I guess.
Probably playing jazz. Yeah, I guess that's
just leave us alone for a week or so. Go and see Jean-Luc and stop playing that jazz.
Exactly. Yeah. I was also intrigued by the codec that Beverly Crusher put on this message that she sent to Jean-Luc, because when you find out that actually he could never have cracked that code, because the codec itself was put onto the Enterprise at a time when he was Locutus of Borg, so he would have no memory of it. Yet she tells him not to reach out to anybody else at all, or Starfleet, anybody in the Federation. Don't get any help. Here you go. Here's an unbreakable code that was on the ship while you were Locutus of Borg.
But that was the Hellbird, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that was around Hellbird. Whereas the Myriad Codex was
only unlockable using the Hellbird code,
which that's it.
He wouldn't have had access to.
No, I
so
really
he
enjoyed
had to reach out to Will Riker, or at least another member of the crew that was there at that time. So
I really enjoyed that bit as well, and effectively how they are able to determine she's in the writing system. I like that little
adding
moment.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Good touch.
Any other points or notes from you guys? Any Easter eggs that you noticed?
not Easter eggs, but I should say, I think I called it Daystrom Laboratories, but I think it is the Daystrom Institute as an organization.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, I guess the Institute though does have laboratories.
I guess they do. So not too far off. Not too far off. If you are looking for Easter eggs, they have done the traditional Star Trek Picard thing where they've put together a room where the camera pans slowly over tons and tons of Easter eggs. This time, of course, in Beverly Crusher's ship, we have loads and loads of items that are memorabilia from Star Trek Next Generation. We see her former husband's medikit bag. We see all the obviously data logs, but we see a number of other things in that room. So we asked for it last season when they did that in Picard, where we had a room full of weapons from all of the creatures that Picard had killed in season 2. And we never got it. We never got a behind the scenes look at everything in that room. I hope they do it for this season for Beverly Crusher's room, because loads of great little bits and bobs in that room. Yeah.
Yes. And if not, don't forget just to send it in to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with your list of breakdown of everything and every word, because I don't know.
There's definitely ones that we missed, without a doubt. Yes. Without a doubt. Well, that's it for our discussion about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 1. Overall, what do you think of the episode, John?
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I thought it was a great opener. I give it 4 disrespectful dinners out of 5.
Nice.
I loved the dinner with Shaw. Absolutely. It gave me sucker, I guess. I like the irreverence that he has towards Will and Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that opening with Beverly Crusher and the end, how that bookended this episode. With the Red Lady and with Raffi. I just liked, seemingly unconnected, but ultimately there's going to be something that leads back here, and the peppering of intrigue around this weapon, and a little dropping of references and how the other members of Jean-Luc's crew back in the day may be sort of inserting themselves into this mission. So I really, really enjoyed coming back here and having this opener, which I just thought it was just really good. Good setup.
Yeah.
Good bit of action as well. And, looking forward to the next episode now.
Excellent. How about yourself, Chris? Any final thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I'm quite positive on this episode. Overall, I went in with hesitation, and watching this episode and watching kind of the rest of the season, because I was pretty burned on season 2.
Yeah.
So I feel this is setting up something that I want to watch. There was enough mystery. There was a cold open that definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah.
There's enough kind of, as I talked about, the sweeping vistas, the kind of the look and feel of the Star Trek sci-fi universe is there.
Yeah. Sprinkling
in with that more aged, mature, fine wine, essential kind of, that we got in we started to see shine through in season 1 of Picard. So I'm positive. I'm very much looking forward to episode 2, and I'm praying that it continues this trend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially, and I can't, there's no inkling right now that I'm like, oh no,
right.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Everything I'm assuming has very much a reason right now, and is leading us somewhere. So overall, very positive on it.
Excellent.
But Derek, what about yourself?
Yeah, good premiere for the 3rd season. They promised a lot with this season, and it started about a week before the last season ended, and it felt like they were going, you've been waiting for this, it's coming, it's on its way, and to set it up the way they have, give a little bit of time between Riker and Picard as well, is a good way to start the episode, bringing back Dr. Beverly Crusher, giving her a big action moment and some really good intrigue in what's happening with her. I thought that was great. And yeah, really looking forward to the season. I'm really hoping they can nail it and put a great capper on the story, this 3-season arc of Star Trek Picard. So yes, looking forward to the rest of the season. This was a great opener for me. Really enjoyed it. I think it's time to go over and get some Romulan ale though. Over to 10 Forward for our season 3 pub quiz. John?
Yes, fellow Trekkies, fellow quizzers, welcome back to 10 Forward for this season's pub quiz on Star Trek Picard. We have question 1 from this episode. What was the name of the whiskey that Will Riker and Jean-Luc Picard shared in the bar?
Very good. If you're ever trying to predict what questions John's going to have on an episode, if you see a bottle of drink of some form in the episode, it's possible that will be the thing that he'll be looking for. John, do you want to give us that question again?
Yes, the question for this episode. What was the name of the whiskey that Will Riker and Jean-Luc Picard shared in the bar?
Very good, very good. Yes, and there will be a question for each episode of Star Trek Picard. Put together your answers for those questions. Email us with them at the end of the season to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with your chance of getting your hands on some Star Trek Picard goodies.
Indeed. Good luck, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you stay subscribed to the podcast. You can subscribe to us at tvpodcastindustries.com. And of course, if you want to send us any thoughts, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries and share your thoughts about the episodes there.
Yes, and although the Star Trek universe doesn't have credits or anything, they do have dilithium ore. So if you want to donate some dilithium ore on an ongoing monthly cadence, you can do it by heading on over to patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries, where you can give us any amount that you choose on an ongoing basis, and it will be an amazing subscription. It helps us keep the lights on, the engines running, and the spaceship going in boldly where no one has gone before.
Nice.
But if you want to keep our pilot at the console longer, you can buy him a coffee by heading to buymeacoffee.com/tvpi, where you can keep Derek editing away to the wee hours with just a wee coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned on our other podcast, we have 3 shows going on at the moment. We're podcasting about The Last of Us, which comes out each week on HBO Max and Sky Atlantic and Now TV. We're podcasting about Star Wars, The Bad Batch, which comes out every week on Disney Plus, and now, of course, adding to that group with Star Trek Picard Season 3 as well. So lots and lots of recording, lots and lots of editing at the moment.
Absolutely. And of course, we're in the Star Trek universe with the Federation. So, of course, you can also support us by subscribing and sharing the podcast as well, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the love.
Oh, wait, I thought we were going Vulcan on this.
Well, we could go logic as well, or intergalactic love, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going Kirk on it.
Yeah, we'll do a Kirk. Exactly. But we'll be back next week with Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage. Your feedback as well is really welcome for the show. Any comments, theories, or observations from each episode during this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we'll have the next question in our 10 Forward pub quiz, so make sure you join us on that podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, and we will speak to you soon.
Yes, great stuff, fellow Trekkies. It's great to have you back. In the meantime, before next week, remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep trekking.
Bye.
Bye.